Coming up on the Daily AI Show.
AGI will probably be here in 2025.
That can disrupt and replace human employees' diligent efforts.
You might see a Neo-Luddite movement.
There will become a bigger experience of confusion around definitions.
What's going on, everybody? Today is January 6th, 2025, and this is the Daily AI Show live. So what we're talking about today is by now you've heard the 2025 AI predictions. You've heard about agents. You've heard about agentic workflows. You've heard about a lot. It seems to be on a lot of the prediction shows. Now, we did our own prediction show last week where we talked about the things we definitely feel like are going to come around in 2025. But in talking about that show, we said, oh, there's always the ones that are a little batch, crazy type ideas. We joked a month ago or so about having, data centers in space or maybe data centers underwater in the ocean somewhere, right? There's all sorts of like fun ways and ideas. So what you might hear today might feel more like a science fiction, might just be for fun. But these are some of the predictions that we have that could just happen in 2025. If you squint your eyes and wink a little bit, you may see some of these things happen. So it's a fun conversation today. With me, I have Beth, Andy, Karl, and I'm Brian. I think Jyunmi will be jumping in just a second. He had some tech issues while he was getting in here for this Monday. And just a quick reminder that you could always go to thedailyaishow.com. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, you could do that there. Our last edition just went out yesterday. It's probably one of my favorites, honestly. It was chock full of good stuff, from our AI predictions to our best use cases in prompting. If you don't want to miss out on that kind of information, make sure you go over to thedailyaishow.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that's it. So I guess, I don't know, I have a few of them that I've looked up, and not looked up, but tried to get some research on and think through, like, okay, what's out there? What's some good ones? Does anybody feel like they have one that they're like, all right, I got to start with this one?
Well, you know what? Before we go, I think like we have to kind of bring up the Sam Altman blog yesterday, because I think like one of my predictions feels like it's going to become a reality. And I know Andy disagreed with us on one show where we talked about AGI and all that. But I think we have to kind of just mention it, how like, it's AGI, and we're probably going to do a show about it. AGI will probably be here in 2025, reflected. They're working significantly on ASI, and then literally he said that AI agents will become part of the workforce. And he actually had a definition of what an AI agent is. What AGI is if you can hire a remote software engineer that can do the work of a remote software engineer. That is AGI. So I know all these things around $1 billion or whatever that is, but that was in his blog post, and that's the definition. So I just wanted to bring that up because that, to me, my new crazy prediction is, if we're going this fast, hey, then by the end of the year, we'll have ASI.
I'll reinforce that point by just saying this morning I read that Ilya Sutskever has said, I have seen a straight shot to ASI. So the people who are working on this, they're not thinking, oh, it's going to take 10 years or maybe never. They're not thinking that at all. They're saying, and by the way, my point of view about AGI is that I think we have a very inflated, expectation of what amounts to human level general intelligence. So I think we're there. That's why I'm an outlier in this thing. I think AGI's already happened. And ASI, super intelligence, the incredible flywheel advancement of developed AI intelligence is going to happen. I'm not going to say it's going to happen in 2025, but if not in 2025, 2026.
Well, I was going to say, go ahead. Well, go ahead, Beth. Go ahead. I was just going to add to that, but go ahead.
So I think one of my predictions that is also like pie in the sky, but not, is that there will become a bigger experience of confusion around definitions, right? So what constitutes ASI? What constitutes AGI? Karl just said what Sam put in his blog. Actually, that's not OpenAI's definition, because AGI has very specific legal ramifications between OpenAI and Microsoft, right? And the official definition was the 1 billion, I believe. That's the agreement.
Yeah.
That's
But that is a purely economic play by Microsoft race.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it does not clarify, right? So AGI will still be up to the individual to define. AGI is in the eye of the beholder, perhaps, or the purchaser, or the whatever that is. But I do think that that this is a very in the bubble kind of phrase and understanding, and that is going to lead to a ton more confusion.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot more people saying that they've achieved AGI. And one of my, well, let me go back to, man, I have to come back to what I was thinking about as Andy was coming off his comment, because now I listened to you, Beth, and now I'm responding to that. What I was going to say though is one of these sort of more bolder. I wouldn't have put it in my 2025 predictions, but I think something that we're going to see. Oh, I know what it was for Andy. Okay, I'll bring them both together. Okay, number one, I think we're going to see a huge inflection tipping point in 2025. So back to what Karl was saying, but actually saying it's speeding up, but it's speeding up at a pace now that's almost hard to fathom from a human standpoint, because we've quite literally never seen anything like this before. I heard somebody quote the other day, I don't remember where I saw it, I wish I did, where they said, this is the first time ever that if you have a child, Karl and my child's age, around teenager age, that you don't know accurately what to prepare them for in 20 years. And I feel that heavily in 2025, that there is a tipping point coming. Whatever we think we've seen to this point, 2025 could definitely be the year that this happens, that there's a Prometheus-like tipping point where it's iterating on itself so fast that what we perceive as the amount of time it should take to get from a narrow niche specific AGI to ASI could happen really in what feels like a blink of an eye. I don't literally mean that, but I do think there's potential in 2025. And if not 2025, I'll say the same in 2026. It's not even about the next 12 months per se, but I think it's possible. And that goes back to what you said, Karl. That's what you're saying, Andy, is look, the experts are talking about this. They obviously have knowledge above and beyond what we do. So is 2025 where we see a pace that is almost inconceivable. And to my other point to that, this is one of my other predictions, sort of pie in the sky thing, is I think you're going to see the rise of micro companies. And what that's really going to do is micro companies are going to generate millions of dollars, millions, if not more than that, with minimal human involvement, because of the advancements in agents and things like that we know are coming, but we maybe can't necessarily wrap our heads around and say, well, how exactly will that happen? Well, I think it will happen. We've talked about the idea of a one-person, $1 billion company. We've talked about that on the show. I definitely think 2025 is where you start hearing about these companies that have 1, 2, 3 employees, and they've managed to garner the raw power of agents, and they're now multi-million dollar companies, and they'll do it without existing today. They'll exist in 2025 and they do not exist today at all. Somebody will come up with a novel idea. I think that could definitely happen in 2025.
I've always been saying how, to me, the fundamentals of how business operates, how business gets funding. Let's take SaaS for example, where you raise capital, seed, Series A, B, C, then you hire, continue raising, and then whether you IPO, your exit, whatever. That's kind of the life cycle, right? And you use VC dollars to fund it. For the most part, sometimes you bootstrap it. But there's a fundamental way of that. And Brian, you're part of that, right? I was part of that. GTM, go to market, sales, all that kind of stuff. But if you have an AI agent, even today, forget the AI agent, with all the tools that we have now, if you are really understanding how this works, you can definitely cut the amount of people you have on your team. Like I know for our business, I was counting over the holiday break there, at least 3 to 4 people we do not hire because we have all this set up, right? So it's not hard for a 2-person, 3-person company to be like, "Hey, we can run this whole ship. We don't need as much VC capital and we can grow." And through growth, we just whether it's you're just building projects and custom GPTs or actually having a part-time developer group build you some agents in RAG systems or partner with Cohere or, do an on-prem, whatever that model is for you, all these things are available now that you don't necessarily need 10, 20 people, another marketing person, another marketing team, another sales team. It's really, what are you spending on is pretty much just marketing and sales, but then even those are getting disrupted. And I'm sure you can see it, Brian, too, because like a lot of what I've seen in SaaS, let's just take tech, for example, is you need to hire a lot of salespeople to do your outbound and inbound to get more customers, right? That's usually the path most founders take. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you go to the marketing, but whatever the combination is, that's there. Then you spend a whole bunch of money on Google, on Meta to get those advertising. But like, okay, if a new company can flip that whole operations, that whole fundamental, I think that's what we're going to see. And that's what I think, like, that's where I agree with you, Brian, is like, there's going to be new ways to build businesses that solely revolve around the technology that people have access to today.
Yeah. I mean, as we get more, there's a lot of human in the loop because there has to be, right now. That's not to say that AI isn't massively impactful. I was literally, before I turned on to this show, reworking one of the more powerful custom GPTs I've built over time called Help Me Book a Meeting With. And I was working on a client project for using that. And like we talked about in new updated prompting, the way that I've prompted it has changed. The user experience has changed, but more importantly than that, right now, I can already take a 45-minute process of doing highly personalized outreach and turn that into a 3-minute process. Not only can I turn it into a 3-minute process for any sales rep out there, I can do it in a way that's a better output than if they put their best efforts at it with 5 of them with expertise in their company. I can eliminate that. I can go from 45 minutes to 3. So you look at the power of that, but I still look at it today and I go, yeah, that's still even though I built that and there's companies using and deploying that right now, that still requires a bit of human in the loop in it. And those human in the loop process and parts are going to be eliminated either through agentic workflows or whatever. So that right now I'm saying, go look at this company and give me this information that I would have done as a sales rep for this company for doing high levels of personalization for emails or outbound or whatever it is. Like, this is the company I want to look for. Maybe this year that gets eliminated to a certain extent because I will no longer, as a sales rep, or the sales team will no longer need a sales rep that necessarily goes out and thinks through that process. It will just happen. And some of it will happen automatically. These companies will be reached out to automatically with very high levels of personalization and detail based on the company you work for. And that's definitely going to have an impact on the size of sales teams and things like that. So the people who put this together, and I think it very much depends on the industry that you're going and targeting after, because not all industries are obviously created equal. Some are definitely going to need more human in the loop. But there's some, and people are thinking about it right now. You know this, Karl. I mean, you're one of these people that's an entrepreneur and you're thinking about this, that are thinking about the right path that has the least amount of friction, that's going to be able to bring in as much of these agents together. And when they do that and they unlock that with some new things probably coming to 2025, it's off to the races because they will have a fully functioning equivalent of 20 full-time reps outbounding, and they're going to do it with one person and one AI workflow. And it's going to be better than anything those 20 could have done.
Brian, you're on the front lines and watching the maturation, actually driving some of the maturation of this process behind the scenes that can disrupt and replace human employees' diligent efforts and reduce the requirement for those. I believe there's going to be significant disruption happening later in 2025 and beyond. And, the question is, what's the big surprise that's going to happen? What's the positive surprise and what's the negative surprise when this starts to manifest? And it's going to mean disemployment. It's a disruption, which is disemployment. And that's going to mean there's a possibility in an outrageous world of zany possibilities that there's going to be a kind of like revolution among all those people involved in sales and marketing, which is one of the areas in AI where AI is taking over.
So
Why we might see a Neo-Luddite movement, something where, where you have people who are actively working to break or push down emerging technology. And we've seen this through history, right? There was history of the Luddite movement, Luddism, I think it was called, like European, where you had your textile workers and they were actively working to break machinery that they thought was going to take over their livelihoods. That's a very human response, right? So I definitely think we're going to see this sort of Neo-Luddite movement towards that because people are going to be fearful about losing their jobs. Absolutely.
So I think one of the things that you're showing, well, first of all, we've already seen the pushback in the most visible way, right? So the burning of the Waymo taxi, no one was hurt, but there were
I
people.
didn't hear about that.
Okay, I will find it because I totally did. I'm not making this up.
It's something this year. Was like last year?
It was in 2024.
Oh wow. Okay.
And yeah, it was the account that I read, and I have not done more research on this. I did not expect to talk about this on the show. But yeah, it was one of those spontaneous kind of it wasn't a full riot, but kind of riot behavior, like a bunch of people expressing distrust and dislike of this Waymo cab, set it on fire. And the reason I'm saying it's riotous behavior is that, like, it seems that people who were around it joined in, right?
Gotcha.
It didn't seem like it may have been a planned thing for one or two people, but it was the kind of thing that inspired that. But the other thing that I think is going to happen based on what you're talking about is I think we are going to see people who insist on AI in the loop. I think we're going to see a shift in that. So, and specifically like things like healthcare or things like finance or things where it is possible that AI is going to track more of what's important in that. Like, I want to know that AI has actually assessed everything, all of my medical history. Right?
I love that idea because, it's not so long ago that it was the case that doctors, and I have personal experience with it, doctors were really annoyed when you would come into the consultation and you had looked something up on Google.
You were too informed.
Oh God, you know what? You know nothing and that sort of thing. But soon it will be, I'm not going to look it up on Google. I'm going to ask my doctor, have you consulted this expert agent for my particular set of feared symptoms?
Yeah.
Oh.
Your specific blood work. Like given the different, what am I trying to say? The different blood markers, the markers that you would have in a typical run up, you'd be like, have you run this against the best AI? Because I don't really want to talk to you if you're not trying actively to use the very best tools out there to help me. And if you're too arrogant or too stuck in your ways and you don't believe that AI can help you plus AI is not better for me, you're not my doctor anymore. I don't have an interest in talking to you if you're stuck in the 2010s. As crazy as that sounds.
We have talked before about something that I think it was part of our 2025 like reasonable expectation about there being like an AI medical professional associated with the doctor so that you could like ask your questions beforehand, right? You got your blood work, you get a moment with the AI nurse or whatever. But Am I going to create a custom GPT? It won't be a custom GPT, but am I going to create the HIPAA custom GPT with my stuff so that I can share that with the doctor? Like, is that the new notes? Here you go. I've got the whole thing. I'm not going to be able to tell you everything that I want to remember in the doctor's office. I don't know who can do that, but I totally cannot. And like, here we go. My AI will remember everything. Or that's just that we have it on the phone. Like,
There's a thing called an EHR, which is
Yeah.
new really to the technology of the medical profession, electronic health record, which is exchangeable from doctor to doctor. Before, they'd have to, you go to your primary, they go to a special, you consult with a specialist. The doctor has to send stuff over by fax because that's the only HIPAA compliant method. And now EHR is making for instant transmission, in effect, of all of the background history of the medical side of the equation and what they've learned about you. But now add to that your Fitbit and or Apple Watch and a bunch of other personalized sort of medical trackers feeding into your AI health monitor, which is attendant to the EHR, but also somehow integrating it. So there's a transformation that's going to happen now where I'm being monitored constantly, and the AI is the one that's going to contact my doctor if there's something that it detects.
oh, wow.
Well,
Like the
I think
mechanic model, right? Like
this is a big
Gareth, we're
point
making
too.
the prediction that doctors are not going to be happy. I feel we'll tend to.
And can you bring up? Well, no, you don't have to bring it up. But Witty Noise in our comments said once this is going back to the sales, but I'm going to connect the two here. Once your inbox starts getting flooded with highly personalized AI written content, the in-person sales relationship may increase in value short term. 100% agree with this, and this is what I want people to know. Yes, there's going to be job disruption. We just talked about sales. We talked about healthcare. In both cases, though, what we're really saying is the value. The time spent with that human one-on-one connection is going to be more valuable and better for everybody because it won't be spent with me spending the 30 minutes before my doctor's visit at some new office hand filling out. It's 2025. You're still hand filling out bubbles about your past history. That's BS. I don't want to do that every time, and I don't think you're going to read it anyway. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time. Nobody's reading this stuff. It goes,
but it does employ the administrative assistant in the office.
Yeah, maybe they're reading it. Maybe they are, because sometimes you feel like you have to repeat yourself anyway once you get in there. So things like EHRs are going to help. In the sales side, yes, person-to-person conferences are not going to go away. The difference is the value of those one-on-one interactions. And it's going to be, the onus is going to be on the doctor. The onus is going to be on the salesperson to have and use AI to be highly knowledgeable when they go and talk to the other person, and maybe vice versa. So that changes things drastically if you start thinking about conferences and thinking about going into a trade show or all the booths. Go to like CES, it's probably going to have 10,000 booths there or something like that. Think about what that changes with AI is if you have an ability now to stand at that booth and have highly personalized knowledge, given that the person, in the company wanted to do it, share it for everybody that comes up to your booth. Now you're having a conversation and it's exactly about your value props and your pain points and what really moves the needle for the person you're talking to, as opposed to wasting a whole bunch of time talking about what do you do? I don't know. What do you do? AI can solve that. It can solve that on the healthcare side too. So I don't think doctors are going away, but there was a great point in the comments like, will we have a board certified AI doctor? Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be something like that. I think that's a great point. But we will still need, hopefully, the good doctors. It may get rid of the shitty ones, but hopefully we'll still have the great doctors who are there to have a good conversation about you. And just like I get updates from Ancestry DNA that say, hey, go look at your new ancestry. We have new data, and now we think that you've shifted a little bit from French Canadian to this, and you're still a whole lot of Irish. That hasn't changed. You still got a lot of that going on, and a little bit from Sicily, but the numbers that moved a little bit, would you like to look? And now I look at these EHRs and I think that's exactly what we want, is to be able to go and talk to a data and go, based on new information that's come in through all the data that we're now connected to in AI, we're adjusting minutely how you approach and what your regimen is going to be, because we're now that much smarter. And
Yeah,
those
when was the last time? When was the last time that your doctor had access to your DNA profile?
never.
Never.
I
Didn't
share
happen,
it.
right? Well,
No.
you've done 23andMe, you have your DNA on file in effect out there somewhere. So I want to
For me.
pivot to a whole other area, which is really what I think is going to be the surprise of 2025. That maybe it was a part of predictions, but not so much. And it comes out of an interview with Dr. Jim Fan. You guys recognize the name, perhaps. He's the head of research in robotics at NVIDIA. Okay. His mission at NVIDIA is to build generally capable agents across physical worlds. And he said he's a really great futurist thinker about this. He has some other quick quotes here. The objective here is to solve AI first and then use AI to solve everything else. And he means not just everything else on screens and in data and in knowledge, but rather in the real world with physical embodied AI. So, and then he says one of the big problems is that we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And that's the societal challenge that he's facing up to. But now what's going to happen, as he sees, this is a visionary in the world of embodied AI. He says there's going to be affordable robots. And there's going to be them. And what he means by robots, he's talking about humanoid robots. And he thinks that humanoid is going to advance because the world is built for us in this shape. That's why the robots have to take that shape. And they can have alternate shapes as well, but they're going to be affordable. And he offers up Unitree G1 as an example of an affordable humanoid. And also there's a Unitree built inexpensive robot dog with wheels that outmaneuvers most animals on Earth. It can navigate almost any terrain. Okay, and then here's some other, in quick succession, some other factors that are developing that are going to empower this huge transformation in robotics. Simulation to real world transfer. Okay, the simulations, the environments, NVIDIA has one in particular, and then Jim Fan is actually an advisor to Feifei Li, I think is the name of the person who went over and started World Labs, which is building this environment for simulation and learning for robots. The time passes 10,000 times faster than time passes for us. And so the advancements of learning that happen in there are going to be dramatic and beyond our ken in terms of understanding how fast this transformation can take place. And then there's also this aspect of sim to real world. So once you do the training in simulated environments, can it transfer to real world? And it turns out, from Jim Fan's perspective, that's working really, really well. Okay, and then you've got this big competition emerging between NVIDIA, which delivered Jetson Nano as a tiny little computer to run edge AI, and also Jetson Thor, their robot-specific computer that's going to go forward and empower these humanoid robots. And X, right, and XAI, which has access to the Tesla full self-driving data, which is the largest physical AI data repository in the world, right? So NVIDIA is building it in, and World is, Feifei Li's company, World is building the simulated environments. Well, Tesla has the real environments and observing their robots in that. So going back to NVIDIA, Project Groot is their behind the scenes thing. It doesn't get a lot of press, but NVIDIA is going to transform itself from, yeah, we're the ones who founded, GPUs and did, generative AI. Fine. What they're building is a moonshot initiative to build the AI brain for general purpose robots. Okay. And they built a foundation model for this where they trained a 1.5 million parameter foundation model for coordinating humanoid motors. Okay. There's more about what's going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'll get up there.
No, I think there's two things there that I like. One, I think you didn't say specifically, but I think the bigger merging in 2025 of quantum plus AI is definitely going to have a huge impact there. We saw what Google's putting out. There's others doing it. NVIDIA is definitely in the quantum compute game. And I think, as that becomes more accessible, you're definitely going to see these digital twin models, these virtual models, like you said. If you get into the heady stuff about like what is time, well, if you get into space travel, into the scientific type stuff in space travel, time moves, right? It's not a constant thing. And so what's to say that in these quantum realms, I'll use that term since it sounds very Marvel-esque and far-fetched. Sorry, Jyunmi's not here for this because I can see him smiling right now. You get into the sort of quantum realms, what's to say that that's not actually time moving faster? And it's processing through that. One of the things I think is really interesting to you, what you said about humanoid robots, Andy, is how soon will it be before there's more humanoid robots on Earth than humans? Is that a 2025 thing? Is that a pie in the sky? Is that crazy to think about? Because I think about when you just go to the tragic events in New Orleans a couple of days ago on New Year's Eve and what happened there. And I think, well, what's an alternative to that? It could seem discerning to people, but what if, I want to say Duval Street, of course, that's not right. Bourbon Street had many humanoid robots in different forms, maybe with wheels or whatever. And the minute something like that occurred where a car was speeding up in a public area, those robots converged to literally self-sacrifice to stop the car where it was, whatever the case may be. Are we for that? Basically RoboCop. But are we going to a place where we're going to be in? Are we going to start seeing this 2025, where we start seeing these AI humanoid robots on street corners? We know there's defunding of the police. We know that there is bias. We know there's a lot of issues with police forces. Are we going to say, hey, you know what? Given the alternatives, I'm actually okay with my streets being a little bit safer because it's got deployed humanoid robots and they will be very quick to respond to these things where maybe humans would be putting themselves in self-harm if they responded. I don't know.
And more discerning and less subject to bias and emotional response than human cops would be.
Wow. And just for me, that is very pie in the sky and missing some key fundamentals about who's programming this stuff and training it. But
Programming. He's the now. It's gonna be.
Then the prediction is that the humanoid robot will be redefined by Tesla and Optimus, so that it will be the humanoid. The humanoid.
The emphasis will be on different syllables for sure.
It will arrive in a revolving, and it will be a humanoid.
I think it's time. One other idea in here, which is that it's the large language models and their advancements that are behind the reasoning capabilities that will be embodied in robotics. Robotics isn't something that's separate and apart from AI and AGI. The AI is going to be involved. And let me give you a quick connector there. Sora and Veo, those are visual multi-models that understand physics and the real world in such a way that you can give them a 2D image and it will generate a 3D world around that can then be replicated in a video. So Jim Fan described OpenAI Sora as a text-conditioned simulation of the visual world. And so it's learning and rendering physics and intuitive dynamics and denoising that whole process in such a rapid way that we're astounded by the ability of the video model. Well, that's AI, and that's what's going to be behind the vision capabilities of the humanoid robots.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea too of like, we're like, oh, look at Sora, look at VO2. You can type in text or give it an image and it'll create a video. And I think in very short period of time, this is a pie in the sky 2025. We'll see this in heads-up displays where it's actually in your live environment in front of you through your display. Your Meta glasses, your whatever, will eventually be able to render those same high-quality video images. Forget your screen. Forget sitting at your desk, which is where you have to type it in. These things will be able to happen in real time out and about in the real world, which will bring on the next evolution of Pokemon Go, clearly. So, which is where Karl, let's be honest, that's where the money's go, right? There's a Pokemon Go. It's like the next evolution of that with AI generated, real world simulated video enhancement. I think you're not going to look at your screen anymore. You're just going to see it when you're looking out there.
There is one thing I want to point out with what we're talking about too, and it's more about the technology could be available, right? We're all predicting the tech will be here. The only question, or I think the things that I've learned this past year from meeting with so many businesses is that the adoption of said technology will be, I feel, a lot slower, more so because I think some people don't have a fundamental foundation as a business whole. So it's not, there's people in the business using it for their personal use, whether, at their work, personally, whatever, but they do it kind of in a silo. There's no actual business, hey, we're unified in really revamping our entire foundation. Some businesses are, but it's very few that I've met that actually have this. I'm biased because that's the kind of businesses we're going after, but also the fact that it's like, well, let's say you do have AI agents. How would businesses actually, they don't do that overnight. You don't go from having no agent to an agent within a day. Like, there's a lot of things that people have to understand. There's testing, there's like, people are going to be cautious, and looking at profit margins, revenue, resources, how are they going to dedicate to test themselves this? And then are they going to create like a shadow company that would do this to test it against themselves? Like, will they disrupt themselves? So while this tech is moving, and I think that's where when Sam Altman was in an interview last year and he said, well, we could create AGI, but the world will move on. Yeah, the world just moves on because it's so fast that it takes a long time for a lot of businesses to adapt, which I think when we go back to our conversation today about startups and new businesses that don't need to do all that, they don't need to adopt. They built this around themselves. That's where I think that's where the real disruption's happening, not for the ones that are the legacy or the current businesses, because they have to kind of unravel a lot of the business operations, the people that they've hired, all that stuff has to be unraveled or redone. That's very hard for business to do while trying to make money and
Right.
keep whatever they're doing. That's a very tough thing. So that's where I think, like, you have the tools, but it'll take a little bit longer to actually see it in production and see it in the world.
And you have to be clear with the people that you're doing the tasks that you're unraveling, what the incentive is for them, right? There is no incentive to train the AI to take your job. There is an incentive to train the AI so that you can do your job better, faster, have more individual, the kind of human to human things. But for the most part, there is no, there's going to be resistance. And I think this is one of the key things that leadership in businesses needs to say up front, right? This is our AI this is our AI plan. This is our way forward with AI, and your job is not on the chopping block right now. But we do want to map all of the processes.
So this is an idea of shadow AI. What you guys do sort of, because this is one of the things I have for 2025 is the rise of shadow AI. So I want to read this quick passage because it says it better than I could. And I want to give credit. This is from Indeed-innovation.com. It says the rise of shadow AI and workplace transformation. The workplace is experiencing a silent revolution with the emergence of shadow AI, employees deploying unauthorized AI agents to automate their jobs. This trend is forcing organizations to confront a new reality where automation is happening from the bottom up rather than the top down. The implications are particularly dramatic in sales, where teams are becoming smaller but more effective. We talked about that. Companies are reporting productivity increases of 30 to 40% in departments where employees have independently implemented AI solutions, creating a complex dynamic between official AI IT policies and actual workplace practices. I think this is going to be a huge deal in 2025 because it's already happening. And so all these companies that are thinking like, we haven't really deployed AI, you haven't officially, but your employees have. They've already looked in and figured out where the inefficiencies are, because if somebody can do 40 hours worth of their traditional job and it's based on output, and they find a way to get AI to help them get that done in 30 hours, guess what? You don't have to tell the employee about the other 10 hours. You're still producing at the same level. And if that's what you're being graded on, well, then you're being graded on your output. That's what it is that you do in that particular job. So I think this shadow AI idea is very, very interesting to me. Might be a whole show on it, but just this idea that we have hundreds, if not thousands, or we have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who have already implemented AI in some way in their company that was not approved by their company. And it's like they said, it's actually going towards productivity. The company is seeing the fruits of that. But to your point, Karl, and to your point, Beth, I think that causes a lot of downhill problems where a company tries to wrangle that. It says, wait, hold on, what do we actually have? And the reality is the company may no longer understand fully how it is that they're being so productive, because it's not top down, it's bottom up, and it's not being shared necessarily, especially if they think that, to your point, Beth, somebody's going to lose their job over it.
Well, it's one of those pieces where this is something that happens in the Salesforce community where, like with companies adopting Salesforce, right? So people are hiring for a particular position, and a Salesforce expert may come in and say, "Hey, so I see you're hiring for this full time. I can do it I can do it in half the time, and I'm asking that you pay me 3/4 of the salary," or whatever that is. And that is something that I think we're gonna see in more job positions than just, Salesforce. I just know about it as Salesforce because that was my background. But I do believe that as we move through this, people are gonna see, that kind of fractional, approach can potentially work.
Oh, one of you yeah, I just want to make a quick prediction on that. I think at the end of 2025, Salesforce agent, HubSpot Breeze, Microsoft agent fail because there will be other agents that will do everything they can do and more, not in platform, just across the board. And I don't think they will be as successful as Benioff or Dharmesh is actually thinking about with the way that they're developed.
I'm gonna make
Far out.
I would push back against that. Go ahead.
I'm gonna make it a prediction on top of that, that the fact that they fail will not actually make a significant difference to, Salesforce in 2025 or Microsoft in 2025, and that it will be an uphill battle to convince people that, it's true, you can move to something else and it will be better for you. I think that's still an uphill battle.
My prediction is those will still exist. Those agents will still exist. They'll just be parent. Those are child agents. There's going to be parent agents that are able to seamlessly be able to move through those and use those, because yes, Salesforce has a system, is very complex. I still think Salesforce has the best chance of building the best agent for Salesforce. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's probably the case it's their product, right? It's their service. But I definitely think there's going to be other agents that are able to move seamlessly from HubSpot to Salesforce and things like that, who are moving around because they're like parent agents over these sub agents. So I don't know if they're going to fail. I don't know if they're going to be as big a deal as we thought they're going to be. Okay, in the year 2000. I like Jude's comment. Yeah, that's, if you're a Conan fan, you're in your head. I'm not doing it, but you can hear the high pitch in the year 2000 in your head. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left here. I want to make sure we wrap up soon, but any more pie in the sky, Karl, Andy, anything else you're like, you know what? It's got just a chance. It's on the outskirts, but it's got just a chance of maybe happening in 2025. You guys have anything else, Beth, you two, that you think we'll kind of wrap up there?
Sorry. I will just say this is my dream. So so there's a little bit more emphasis. I don't know people who are working on this. If you're working on this, like talk to me. I am so excited about it. We will have AI that is based in music as a pattern, and is able to interact with you musically. So I can ask for chord progressions. I can use Solfa sign language, and it will play the tones that I'm talking about.
Mm.
I can sing, and it will give me feedback based on the sheet music that it can read. Like those kinds of very specialized,
Mm.
uh, it's so there. We should be able to do this. I really thought that ChatGPT Advanced Voice Mode was going to be my friend there because it can detect accents, but nope. So I believe that that is coming in 2025 because I want it to be coming in 2025.
I love it. Sounds great. Andy.
I wanted to follow on Justin's comment in the chat about Meta's large concept model and what impact that will have on it. The large concept model is this idea of training a model not just on single, token prediction, but rather identifying larger concepts at the sentence level. And I think that this is going to empower reasoning capabilities in models as small as Jetson Thor and Jetson Nano ultimately, because it's confining the problem for AI down to the known concepts in the human knowledge. And so I think it's a really important progression. It makes models more efficient and more connected to what it is that we know is important in the world, the concept space, rather than the letter space, let's call it.
I like it. Karl, you got any last ones?
I think I did it last week where I talked about a major disease. I don't know if that's like super far out there, but like I really believe with everything we have, we should be able to have one major disease that AI either solves by itself or somebody just like, yeah, we got it. Or it's the path to there, something like that.
I mean, I definitely see stuff in Parkinson's, sickle cell, Alzheimer's for sure. I know that's near and dear to your heart, Beth. I definitely have seen a lot of, advancements there, and of course the cancers as well. So I don't even think that's necessarily pie in the sky. I actually believe that will happen in 2025. Karl, so I think that's a good one. All right, listen, we're going to wrap it up there because we have certainly done our fair share of 1 hour episodes, and we're not going to do that today. We're going to wrap it up in the 40s. So you're welcome, Jyunmi, even though he's not here. That's it for today, guys. We're going to be back the rest of the week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today. It was a little pie in the sky, but I also think it's rooted in a lot of reality, all the things that we do know, and that's what makes this really, really interesting. We've also talked about a couple other topics that are going to come into other shows. What Karl was talking about at the top of the show with Sam Altman, we're certainly going to be discussing. So make sure you come back the rest of this week and hang out with us. We're live every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can hang out, come over to YouTube. You can hang out in the comments with all our amazing people like Gwen and Justin and Jude. And we had some new folks in here today. So thank you. Gareth, thank you for showing up. And we had some other ones earlier in the conversation. So Patrice is back. Thank you, Patrice. I can't scroll anymore. Okay. We're going to wrap it up, but thank you to everybody that was in there. See, there's so many comments that I can't scroll fast enough to read them anymore. That's how active our community is. So if you want to hang out and be part of the conversation, do it. Yeah, Andy.
Just reminder, it's on YouTube that collected comment stream exists. If you're coming into us from LinkedIn, you don't see that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We love you on LinkedIn, but if you're commenting, come over to YouTube. Because that's where we can see it all, and it kind of keeps it in one place. So yes, thank you if you're in LinkedIn. We love you there, but it is easier on YouTube. Okay, that's it for today. I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is a fun one, and we will be back all week to have much more AI conversations. So until then, guys, have a good day. Bye.